So thanks to all the research I do over at cannabisradio.com, of which I host on that network, which I produce I help to produce all the programming there at the network. I'm the program director at Cannabis Radio, where we feature a plethora of programming, of which one of them I host called Blunt Business. Go ahead and please subscribe to it. Find where you find your podcast and go ahead and check it out for yourselves. I really appreciate all of you enjoying the cannabis content I put here on one of my podcasting. The Delta 8 THC story really took off. I really appreciate that. And I like all the commentary that we got back on that. Really great stuff. And also the stuff on Amsterdam, which I also have a series which hasn't already gone out there yet. It's about to drop on all of you. And really, the cannabis content really has taken off. I really do love that that's something that's very important. And this is a very important story. More than anything else, one of the things we've been talking about on Cannabis Radio is decriminalization. Because we know that the current administration and the current setup in Washington, D.C. is looking at the idea of decriminalization. And one of the things that we're looking for decriminalization was the MORE Act. Okay? And that's one of the things that people need to go and keep an eye out of in the meantime, is what could happen with cannabis down the line. So that's why the Delta 8 story was very important, because we didn't talk much about it. And I haven't even talked about that much on Cannabis Radio. So I give that to you over here. So there's a couple things that are going on, especially when it comes to what's going on right now with all the things that are going on. The latest thing right now with cannabis, before I get to my point of the story of the decriminalization, I should talk about this story right now from MarketWatch.com. So you know the guys who were partly the Robin Hood group, the Reddit ragtag bunch of stock investors that really pushed up GameStop, AMC, BlackBerry, and other companies, that really did create the shorts that got a lot of the venture capital companies, or the hedge fund companies that took a shit because because they were losing their head. They were losing billions of dollars because of this. The same guys that are also behind Dogecoin and the cryptocurrency push, all of that. Well, cannabis stocks took the same thing. It's because the same group, the Wall Street Bets type people, the Reddit stalkers, the stockbroker types, stock investors, they decided to go after cannabis stocks and give that a run for its money. Well, then the stocks took a nosedive as the rally was driven by hopes for U.S. legal reforms came to a screeching halt. So on Thursday, as I record this is 2 days before Valentine's Day, cannabis ETF THCX, which did go up, as I record this, up 1.58% at the end of the week ending February 13th. They had their biggest one-day decline since it started trending in July 2019, 18.1%. Tilray, which is a big group up in Canada, their stock was down 40% and had gained 50.9% the day before. Biggest one-day gain since it rose 56.8% on March 26, 2020. Which was roughly, week and a half after the state of emergency was declared, right? So some of the buying appeared to be driven by an investor group on Reddit that had sent the stock of video game retailer GameStop to record heights in recent weeks. And there's been a massive move, and most people are buying Canadian cannabis stocks, which are not going to be the direct beneficiaries of any reforms to the laws in the U.S. It's been pretty rough with these moves. So the rally was ignited by the election of the Biden administration, that the view is they are in favor of reforming the U.S.'s strict federal cannabis laws, or marijuana if you want to call that, and also, despite the progress made by proponents of medical marijuana, continuing to classify it as a Schedule I drug alongside the likes of heroin. There's some other things that are going on as well that I haven't talked about here on the program, but I'll talk about that now. Virginia State Legislature, Senate and House have already gone ahead and moved ahead a bill to Governor Ralph Northam to sign, so that Virginia can be the next state, which will be state number 40, to become legalized for cannabis or marijuana. And that's going on there. New Mexico is looking to do the same thing, and the same thing's being proposed for New York, but obviously people are trying to see if New York will actually come on board. New Jersey just came on board, but there's a lot of things going along with that. Check out my Blunt Business show. I actually talk about the New Jersey market, with Jessica Gonzalez, an attorney who helped to go and push the legalization of cannabis, and aka marijuana, in New Jersey. I keep saying marijuana because of the fact that one of the reporters I got to talk to on Blunt Business Jeremy Burke, who works for Business Insider, now called Insider.com, he actually talked about the fact that marijuana, for whatever reason, still is a good keyword. But in the industry, we like to prefer to call it as cannabis. But obviously, in the mainstream sense, you still got to call it marijuana because people don't know what cannabis is. Why? I don't know. Understand. So I'm doing that here for the sake of all of you out there. So there's that story. But here's the other story I got to talk about as well, is the half-legal cannabis trap. So in Los Angeles, Politico puts out a story and says that people are getting arrested for what they think are legit jobs in the, well, they call it the pot business. So when they say pot, that's usually just they're taking shots at the industry, which I don't like, but that's what they're going to do. Well, decriminalization just spread the problem nationwide. So they move along and they say that they're talking to someone named Kelvin, okay, and who had worked as an electrician, and he was working with a private security company that contracted him to guard marijuana dispensaries. So he did not want to be identified beyond his middle name to avoid professional retaliation. He doesn't smoke cannabis, but the gig felt like the future. And one day, police were dressed in camouflage, showing up with guns drawn, ordered everyone on the floor. Kevin was arrested, as were the employees of the store, and the cops said the dispensary was unlawful. Well, this is something that's happened a few times before, and this is just where in California, there's just certain times where, even in Canada, you know, law enforcement still can do things where, first of all, they're not necessarily too responsive when it comes to a dispensary getting robbed because of the insurance liabilities that come with it. And there's not a lot of insurance companies that will help out with that. Then there's the issue of the financial end where some of these businesses have to go and take cash and they can't take credit cards and they have no way to really go ahead and take care of any banking or financial services because the banks won't work with them because of their still classified as Schedule 1. So there's things like that go on. So there's an issue where all that comes in. So what I want to get into what Politico tries to say about the decriminalization point. So I want to get to that part. But again, they don't get into this right away. But I got to go down a few paragraphs. So here we go. After the fold, President Biden said during his primary and general election campaign he wants to decriminalize but not legalize marijuana nationwide in order to reduce the harm the populations had so hard by drug law enforcement over the past half century. A Biden spokesperson didn't elaborate on the president's agenda in any detail beyond what was in his campaign platform. White House has been silent on the issue since the change of administration. And again, remember, the MORE Act was passed by the House in December in a lame duck session of Congress in a symbolic gesture. That's what I call it. Now, on our network at Cannabis Radio, we have had people that have used the words cautiously optimistic if the Biden administration is going to go ahead with that. But we know the past history of the president and vice president and their thoughts on marijuana, on how they've reacted to decriminalization, or when they've really dealt with marijuana offenses, or when they've dealt with marijuana as something that is a business venture. They have given opposite opinions, and we have it on record that they've been opposed to marijuana in the past. But obviously, things can change with time, and policy prescriptions can also change as well. Now, in the story from Politico, they tried to go and respond, ask for a request for comment, and was denied. They were never given any comment about what there was being saying. If Democrats do pursue the path for decriminalization, the entire country might soon look like Washington, D.C. or Vermont, where a thriving gray market economy has started to develop. Okay, Politico, this is going on in every state anyway, and this is just an issue where when regulations coming into play, all right, you have to realize that D.C. is just full legalization, and I don't know how the District of Columbia actually handles things when it comes to that. But for them, it's not as much, or they're trying to use D.C. or Vermont as examples. No, use the actual examples like California or Colorado or Washington State or Oregon, the initial 4 legalized states. Use them as examples. Don't start using this kind of cloudy environment, which you got right here, which, of course, they don't even cite any stats or numbers about a thriving green market economy. They're trying to tell you, which is what they don't want to do, of course, because they're a media outlet that has a particular political agenda, regardless of what you think about it. Their idea is that, yes, there's an illicit market, because there is still a thing where there's just too many different regulations that are going on, that there are still black market sales. And of course, there is some cannabis that's going across state lines. It's a control issue. It's a regulation issue. So the states must handle that. And if DC and Vermont do a crappy job of it, well, that's not our problem. That's not indicative of the rest of the states that are doing the right job, okay? The Bureau of Cannabis Control in California, or Health Canada up in Canada, or, pick your place. But every state that has legalized cannabis or marijuana in a medical or adult use form, they have control boards, they have regulations, we have standards, we have compliance, we have standards for research, all of this. So for this Politico to go and put this story out here and just blanket it, it's like just some blanket issue, they're not giving context at all. Indicative of all these kind of publications like this. And Politico is no different. We know that. As the example of Los Angeles shows, a supposedly middle ground approach toward marijuana, far from the all-out war on drugs approach that disproportionately hurt black, brown, and poor Americans, which it did, can ultimately continue to detrimentally affect those same populations in the long run. If localities are supposed to be laboratories for democracy, with each charting its path around marijuana legalization, the mess in Los Angeles is a possible warning sign. But here's the thing. This is where you have to have opportunity zones. This is where you have to have, the zones that are made so there can be some development in different markets. Okay. Remember, there's entrepreneurship that's coming in that will help in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion. You're also forgetting that in each state, in most of these states, especially Illinois, especially California and other states, they have enforced that, people that have criminal offenses or people that are getting a second chance will be able to get jobs in these dispensaries, in these cultivators, in these industry-related positions. They're going to be able to go and get a chance at the jobs because there is a fostering of diversity, equity, inclusion in that sector, which you're not reporting here in the story, of course not. No, I can't do that. Other cities and states have similarly struggled in recent years with the rise of a so-called gray market for cannabis. Again, just gray market. So they're saying a gray market is where any seller is taking a legal risk. The people who succeed are generally white. Okay. Can we have I'm going to call this guy out. All right. I want to give the name here of this gentleman. Oh, it's going to be this lady, Amanda Chicago Lewis. Again, yeah, you're based in Los Angeles. You're putting the story out here. But again, just saying gray market. Can you actually give some facts? Or do you just have enough space on the internet to go ahead and put this out? This is not a story you're putting out in a newspaper that only has a certain amount of inches, okay? Really, you're only going to have a certain amount of words. That's all you can do? You can't really give the whole story about it? Again, she's not giving anything, which is really, really bad. So anyway, it's all speculation here. It's just all it is. Several listed pot shops flourished from about 2011 to 2019 in Detroit. Sure, but those are shops that, again, illegal, they were illicitly owned and operated. This is where law enforcement has to come in and do their thing with there until there's actual, but of course, it's medical marijuana, though we already had in Michigan for a while until we got, full adult use there. So again, just, what they just continue to do is just, this is just so cloudy with no context whatsoever. And I just can't go on this video or this audio podcast and just try to, really just explain everything. I don't need to go ahead and redirect with facts back to this. I can put stories up here and all, but I have a lot of content I've done myself. Well, but this is program. We have enough stats out there where I can put that, up to water against this story. Okay. So now, they talk about Los Angeles. They go through, and again, it's a large state, a large city in metropolitan Los Angeles to try to take care of that. And again, what you don't know is the New York Times story from 2018, in April 2019, where they talked about the illicit market in California and the Bureau of Cannabis Control having to, lodge 3,000 complaints a month. And all they can do is continue to go ahead and shut down these shops when they come up illegally. That's all they can do. Continue to go ahead and crack down on shops that are not following the letter of the law, not following the regulations, standards, and compliance standards that are being put. But there are a lot of great companies that are actually doing amazing, above the bar standards when it comes to compliance for the quality product that is organic, that has very little pathogens and pesticides and any kind of things that's as organic as possible and as potent as possible to the right to the right to the plant itself. It's being done. But of course, God forbid Amanda Chicago Lewis goes out and talks to dispensaries one-on-one. Talks to, I can give you companies. Hey, Amanda, how about, reach out to me? Okay. Brasco, Brasco at cannabisradio.com. I welcome you on the blunt business. Bring the story up. I'll bring you on. Happy to let you go and have your say. I'll come back with facts for you to go ahead and supplement so that you'll have a better understanding of the subject. And of course, I'll be friendly and I will not hold back. I will definitely give you the time to go ahead and make your point, and I'd be happy to go and have you on. But again, you are not citing facts here, and I want you to go ahead and be able to give proper facts. Now, if you're unable to, and you're only going to be able to go ahead and go within the political narrative that you're set to, then don't come on the show. But if you can't come in here with an open mind and be able to go and come over here and, talk to a host like myself, that'll go ahead and help to further educate. Like, I know you're in the ground in Los Angeles, but again, when you just put blanket out facts based on what narrative you want to put out there or whatever your publication, Politico wants to put out, well, that's your prerogative. But that's not the way it is. If you want to do the right thing and correctly report, then come on the show. And even if it's not my show, I have another show I can bring you on as well that'll also have people that can also definitely going to give you the right concept of what you're talking about. That could put you right on track. Okay. The industry is very professional. It's self-regulating. It's self-governing in many cases. There's a lot of people doing right stuff over here. We've got some really good people in this industry. And for the continued narrative, this mainstream narrative that's being put out there, it's not so much even this reefer madness anymore as it is just, the dumbfoundedness that, people don't want to go ahead and, legitimize cannabis or marijuana as it is. Well, if you want to go ahead and still be in your bubble, your Twitter bubble, like all those other people in the University of Illinois Chicago survey, what was it, Illinois and Champaign, right? The study that talks about that so many reporters are within their own bubble in Washington, D.C., okay? Or within their own bubble in the media, that you only talk to, like-minded people in the media like yourselves. So you never go and look outside of the rest of the country. You only look at what's in your backyard, in your nice big city dwelling. Okay? You do what you want. You want to keep putting out stories like this, I'll keep calling them out. But if you want to do the right thing and have some proper debate and discourse, I invite you on Blunt Business. I welcome you to it. Again, email Brasco, Brasco at cannabisradio.com. I welcome you aboard, Amanda. Open arms. Let's have a conversation. I'll keep you updated if she actually answers back. Or somebody answers back to me about it. Either here on the YouTube channel, whatever it might be. And I'll talk to you next time.